Hello everyone and welcome back on my channel for yet another video about young royals. I know what you're about to say, but love my shelf, aren't you done talking about this show? Well, first of all, no, I'll never be done with this show. If this is your first time on my channel, you need to be aware of the fact that I'm pretty straightforward and honest whenever I give out my opinions. I don't sugarcoat it, I would say. I find ways to put my point across without being mean or judgmental or spiteful and hateful. But if there is something that I do not like, I will not pretend that I do. For those of you who know me and who watch my reactions to Young Royals, you already know my opinion about season 2. And I know that I did a whole rant at the end of my episode 6 reaction, where I also came from the future, inserted myself from the future 1 week or a month after season 2 dropped, and just shared my opinion and how my feelings about the season had changed and stuff. But it's been over 2 months now that season 2 dropped, and my opinion changed again. And since the season is still discussed on Reddit, Tumblr, Twitter and stuff, I thought, you know what, I think some of the stuff I want to say it on YouTube as well, and not only on Twitter and with my close friends with long ass audio on WhatsApp. If you're a friend of mine, I'm sorry. I don't think there will be any structure to that video. I'm just going to dive into my thoughts and opinions, and hopefully this makes sense when I edit it later. If not, I'm so sorry. Everything started because I finally began to read Vilmon fanfictions. For those of you who don't know, I am a writer. I write under the pen name Symphony on Archive of Our Own, and it's always been difficult for me as a writer to read fic in the fandom and write at the same time, because I don't want other people's versions of the character to influence my own, and I just don't have time to read fanfics, at least not about Vilmon. But every time I came across something that I might be interested in, I add that to my mark to later list. What I meant to say was that I was finally going through the list and selectioning some fics I wanted to get into when I came across this fic. Now, I still haven't read the entire story, but I'm around chapter 6 or 7, I think, and this fic is brilliant. Not only the writing is great, but also the characters, just the story it's telling. And after reading it, and especially now that we know how things turned out after the ending of season 1 and what we actually got story-wise with season 2, I couldn't help but look back at season 2 and be slightly disappointed. Please don't misunderstand, I still love Young Royals to death, and I did enjoy season 2. There were a couple of issues I had with it, but overall I thought this season was pretty enjoyable. But yeah, so I was reading this fic and I just got so annoyed by the fact that season 2 didn't do any other stuff I had in mind. That's not really true, actually. They did some of the stuff I thought they would do, but I still can't help but be kind of disappointed by the turn of events that happened in season 2 and how the story came to be. Again, if you're familiar with my content, you must probably know that I released a video about my assumptions of what season 2 was going to be about, from the perspective of someone who writes, and also from the perspective of what I hoped to see, I guess. And I wanted to come back on season 2 as a whole and discuss some of the things that don't really vibe with me the more and more I think about it. First of all, I was one of the few people who were adamant about the fact that we did not need a love triangle for the story to move forward, and I guess I was wrong. To be perfectly fair, the Marcus, Wilhelm, Simon thing isn't really a love triangle, or at least it's not a real love triangle, you know, like they do in other teen dramas. And I do think that Marcus being present in the story was important and did get a point across. And even though I used to say that Wilhelm already knew what he lost with Simon and everything, at the time I thought this was clear for him that Simon was going to move on eventually, and what he was able to offer to him wasn't really what Simon wanted, and that's too bad, but that's the reality of life, you know. Just like when sometimes in a relationship one of the two partners want kids and the other doesn't. That's just different wants, different needs, and it doesn't mix up well. But I can only be mad at myself for this one. I think I just gave Wilhelm too much credit. Even the way I read him in my fics is usually pretty more emotionally intelligent and mature, I would say. I still try to make it seem like he's a teenager, but I know that when I was his age, I was more in tune with like people's wants and just like not only see stuff through my perspective. But anyway, that's not the point of this video. What I'm trying to say is just that I thought that Willem knew, but apparently he didn't, and so yeah, he really got slapped with the reality that well, Simon doesn't want what he has to offer, at least in the beginning of season 2, and Simon just wants something normal, something easy, something simple. And I know that it's also what Willem wants, but sadly that's not what his life entails for him, and that's really fucked up and sad. Like, don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, like, if Simon isn't willing to compromise and be a secret and stuff, then yeah, they can't be together. That makes sense. And so Marcus was useful not only for Willem to realize that and to realize all the things that Marcus could offer Simon that he couldn't, sadly, because of his role and everything, but it was also pretty needed for Simon. I feel like his relationship with Marcus just secured his feelings for him. Like, he could not move on. Like, Willem was the real deal. And I feel that's important for Simon as a person, because if he had any doubt about the depth of his feelings for Willem, then he wouldn't have been able to compromise at the end of season 2, like to really ponder over it and be like, is it worth it? Like, is our connection, is our love, is our relationship really worth being kept a secret? So I think the Marcus-Simon storyline did have some impact on the story as a whole, and maybe we could have found a way around that and not put that into the story at all, but overall it was pretty well written as far as relationships drama goes. My issue though with this specific storyline is that I feel like it lasted a lot longer than it should have. And when you think about season 2 as a whole, when you think about the way some of the drama starts and some of the storyline starts, it's kind of weird that they all found their resolution in episode 6. I mean, most of them, because it wasn't the case with season 1. Like, the August and Felix thing ended episode 5. The whole storyline with Sarah and their dad and Simon also ended in episode 5. So I just don't understand why they didn't make it so that Simon would like break up with Marcus in episode 5. I don't know if they really intended and they really wanted Simon and Willem to sleep together again before Simon made a move to like actually end things with Marcus, but we also knew then watching that he was done with Marcus by the end of episode 4, and it was just a matter of time. He just didn't find the time to talk to him, I guess. And knowing Simon and how he doesn't really like conflict, and what I mean by that is, of course, he stands up for himself and stuff, but he doesn't like to disappoint people and to hurt people, especially after the fact that he already had that talk and Marcus made it pretty clear that he was the one who was getting invested and stuff. Like, of course, Simon wouldn't want this conversation to happen like really soon, like if he could just push it back, you know, like as far as he wanted. But story-wise and as a viewer, it felt kind of condensed. Like, when you think about it, it's all resolved in the first 5 minutes of the episode. Like, they have this talk where Marcus just says the most fucked up shit, to be real, and then yeah, that's done. And I don't know if we're going to see him again in season 3. I don't see how they could even like bring him back in season 3 unless there is like, I don't know, like a fight between Willem and Simon again, and maybe Simon just needs to find comfort, but maybe Roche and Ayub aren't there and somehow he ends up at Marcus or just randomly crosses him. But even then, it wouldn't even make sense, because Simon didn't break up with Marcus because he was still in love with Willem, and despite what Marcus was offering and despite how perfect he was, it just wasn't working. It's not that. It's not only that. It's also the fact that he's just not interested in Marcus. Like, he never was. There never was this connection, this thing that, you know, you can't really explain, but sometimes you vibe with people, and sometimes despite the fact that on paper they're perfect, let's just forget the manipulative tendencies for a bit. Like, even if the guy on paper is perfect, maybe it's just not enough. There is no spark, you know? Since this is the story we were given, I don't see how this could make sense if they do, like, end up even having a conversation in season 3. Like, they're not even friends. Like, really. So yeah, that was kind of strange. And I also think that the plot with Russo took a lot of time and could have been handled better and could have been dealt with in episode 5. Like I said, like I think this should have ended in episode 5, but I talked about it more in detail in my other video when I was reacting to the last episode of season 2. So if you want to know my take on that, you can just go watch this video. My main issue with season 2, the more I thought about it, and I know that many people thought that as well, is that sadly the whole thing with Marcus kind of robbed us of a bigger plot we could have had discussed, which sucks, and that is the impact of the sex tape. Back when I was giving out predictions, I remember saying that I thought the sex tape was going to come back, but I thought this was going to be another scandal, because knowing the internet today, knowing the way people just overanalyze every little frame and every little thing, I mean, you should just see how people shape Edwin and Omar and are desperate to find any proof that they are together. Like, I don't see how a scandal like this, even if the prince like said it wasn't him in the video, would just go away like that. I feel like it's not really realistic. And that's kind of weird, because even though there were some moments in season 1 that felt very dreamy and romantic and romanticized, it was still pretty realistic. The issues they talked about, the way the character reacted and interacted with each other, like it all felt grounded in reality. And the fact that the sex tape isn't discussed anymore, and when I say that, I mean there is like no clear repercussions, like small things they could have done, like when Simon goes to that bar and sings karaoke, like they could have panned to the audience and just show that the weight of people's gaze is still on him, like they're still talking between themselves. And I don't know, maybe like since social media is also a pretty big part of young royals, maybe like just Simon posting a picture and him getting random comments. They could have done something like that with Simon. And knowing Simon, I don't think he would have told anyone. I think he would have like handled it himself, like maybe blocked people and delete messages until maybe it became too much, and then he would have thought someone. But you know, it's just like little things. It didn't even need to be this whole big storyline, but just little stuff that just grounded the situation a bit more. And yeah, I'm kind of disappointed now that I think about it, that the whole big drama we had in season 2, despite like everything else that was happening with Sarah and August and trust issues and stuff, is just this whole thing with Marcus. Like, this took so much time for something that was so simple to resolve, in a sense that it wasn't even that complicated. Like, I mean, I know that Simon tried to be done with it in episode 3, and it's not his fault if Marcus just decided to not listen to him and live his own world where Simon was into him as well. Like, that's not his fault. But story-wise, it just why? Like, why? We could have been done with this storyline so much sooner, and they could have dived it into so much more interesting stuff, because now we know we only have like 1 season left. So maybe the stuff I said before about like Simon getting messages on Instagram and being harassed and stuff, like maybe this will happen in season 3, maybe we'll see it then. But I don't know, I feel like this is such a missed opportunity, and like I said in the beginning of this video, I still like season 2. I think it's a good season, and it is still better than most of the teen drama stuff out there nowadays. But when we see what could have been, it's kind of disappointing, especially since Young Royals is about something so much bigger than just like Wilhelm and Simon and their love story. Like, maybe it will make sense in the end once we have season 3. Maybe we'll look back to season 2 and be like, oh yeah, okay, that was necessary. No, I understand, blah, 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 blah. But as for now, yeah, kind of disappointing. One of the things I also want to touch on is just a small thing, but I know there is a strong movement on, at least on Twitter, I don't know about any other website, who want Simon to be able to like talk about his feelings, and especially with Wilhelm, and like, you know, confide into him and find comfort in him when he's not okay and stuff. And I see why you want that to happen, but also I cannot help but be like, why? Because if we look at season 2, despite the really wrong choices that Simon made with Marcus and with other stuff. I think he managed his emotions pretty well, and Simon and Willem obviously have very, very different ways to handle their emotions and their physical or like emotional response to those emotions and feelings. That they don't need the same stuff. Like Willem needs to be cuddled, he needs to be pampered by love, he needs to be reassured, he needs to have this presence around him, and Simon isn't like that. But that's not less valid. Like, if we look at it from the outside, and okay, maybe I'm biased because I always related to Simon a lot, like personality-wise. I feel like he does the same thing as me whenever I'm sad or upset about something, I just keep it to myself and I sort through those feelings myself. So I actually like think about them and feel them, and you know, I let everything out. And that's also what Simon did. Like, he poured out everything in his music. He reflected a lot about what he was thinking, what he was feeling, and whenever he was ready to share with others, when he reached past phase 1, when he just needed to be alone with his own feelings, then he was open to talk about them. Because there is this whole scene when we see he cried after he learned about Sarah betraying him, and he's talking with Roche and Ayub, so we can guess that he called them over to his house. So that, and the fact that, like I said, he doesn't seem to be pretending that his feelings don't exist. He just has a different way to sort through his emotions and problems. And I do wish we'll have like more scenes between Willem and Simon where they're both vulnerable. Then I do want to see Simon opening up about his past and maybe his dad and all of the stuff. But I don't think he will ever be that person who will actually reach out for comfort from Willem directly if he's hurt by something. Like, I mean, I might be wrong, and we'll see in season 3, and if it happens, then great, it happens. But I don't know, I feel like it wouldn't be in character, and I don't think that it's wrong of him. Like I said, as long as he's processing all those feelings and he's not pretending they don't exist, then it's fine. He doesn't need to have someone with him while he's feeling shit and stuff. I said it before, but I relate a lot to him, and I know that whenever I'm upset, just leave me alone. Like, honestly, don't even touch me. If you're still willing to give me comfort and I'm in a zone where I'm able to put words to those feelings and to be, yeah, in a mental place where I want that comfort, then yeah, I will be seeking it. And that's what Simon did, I think. Let's just wrap up this video because I felt like I talked forever and I don't even know if my accent is any good. I haven't talked in English in such a long time. I'm so sorry if it wasn't, and if it was catastrophic, I apologize. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to know if there is any other fake and any other thing I didn't mention that you also felt was kind of like disappointing about this season as a whole. Please tell me if you have anything you want to see in season 3 specifically. If you disagree with me, you're also free to tell me in the comments. As long as you're like not being hateful or mean, I'm open to discussion. I don't think I know everything. I know I teased it last time, but I swear I am working on other Young Royals videos. I just need to read one more book, and then I will be able to release my pairing up every Young Royals characters with books from my bookshelf. And at some point I also intend to make a video about what I think the MBTI of each character is in Young Royals, because I strongly disagree with some of the consensus on internet. Like the simple fact that people are still typing Simon to be an ESFP when he is so not an FR user. Like, it was already clear in season 1, but season 2 proved us that he's an FE user. Like, this is textbook FE. Textbook FE. And I know what I'm saying because I am an FE user as well, okay? I know my shit. So anyway, if you like my content and if you want to be informed of when I'm going to be posting next, you can follow my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter. I'm pretty active over there and I still discuss Young Royals things and amongst others. If you're interested in reading any of my fanfics, you can also find me on Akava own as Symphony. Thank you so much for having me and for listening to me ranting about this show again. See you next time. Bye!